Hello, everybody, and welcome to this exciting episode of Leafs Line Podcast. I didn't think we'd get to this one where they'd be up 3-1, but hey, we are here, and it is going to be a fun one to talk about. I am your host, Mario Russo. Joining me tonight is Evan Davis, Rimoli, and Jared Rotenberg. Guys, we were there, minus Evan. He's in California, the sweet state of, he's got his own playoff stuff going on down there, but we got ours, and it doesn't compare to any other year we've either been on the show, we've lived through. It's been totally new, and we're just enjoying it as fans. Some people don't even know how to react, and we're going to go in and talk about it today. The Maple Leafs, if you do not know, and if you've been living under a rock, are up 3-1 against the Tampa Bay Lightning in round one of their playoff series, their rematch playoff series from last year. They haven't made, you probably know the numbers, but they haven't made it past the first round since the 2004 NHL season. The curse is well long. We don't even remember. We were old enough, but we don't remember things coming through. So again, this is all new. We've seen the Leafs up 3-1 before. A Montreal series does come to mind, and a Montreal defeat 3 more games in a row also does come to mind. But I don't know if it's going to be like this, guys. We're going to talk about the game today. 4-1 was the scoreline heading into the third period, and it was daunting. Leaf Square. We were all there. Me, Adamo, and Jared. We were feeling it. We were yelling loud. That's why our voices might be not as strong as they would be regularly. And we were really contemplating what this team has in them. And then, lo and behold, goals get scored. Austin Matthews is the guy to get it done. And William Nylander pitching in, I believe, 3 assists he had it by the end of the night. And yeah. And he didn't get played too much, which is really another cause for concern on Sheldon Keefe's part. But regardless, they tie it up miraculously. Leaf Square is going crazy. And in the power play, the only power play that they got in overtime, they didn't waste no time. And out of all the names, you could even pick this out of a hat and got it right. Alexander Kerfoot tips one in for the OT winner, sending Toronto in jubilation. The city is almost on fire, and it will be burning in flames if they capitalize on Thursday night at home against the Tampa Bay Lightning. Guys, let's talk about the game first of yesterday. What did you guys see that was the most kind of switch in your mind, that this Leafs team is not just different, but here to mess around and knock some teams out, most notably Tampa Bay Lightning to start? Jared, I'll start with you. Come on, give it to me. What is saying this team is different? We've seen 2 different kind of wins where they didn't really deserve to be the winner in each of those games. You could argue maybe yesterday they deserved it, but God, they did not deserve it on Saturday night, and they found a way. We've never been able to say that as playoff Leafs analysts, if you will. So what do you make of this team and the run they're making right now?
So many times the Leafs have been the team that has dominated a game that by all accounts they should win, and they blow it at the end. By some miraculous turn, they turn it over at the end, give up a stupid penalty at the end. Whatever the storyline is, we are always the team that's on the other end of this. We're always the team that gives it up. Well, this team, I don't know if they're different in a clutch game and proving in a winner take it all game. But at the end of the day, in these last 2 games that we really should not have won, we didn't deserve to win. We found a way to step it up at the very end when we were being dominated all night long. When push came to shove, this team stepped up where all the teams in years previous have failed to. So for that reason, it's hard to argue this team isn't different. I mean, they step up when they have to. They get the job done. And all that anyone remembers at the end of the day is the team that ends up winning. And we could say that because we know how that feels when we should have won and we've played great games where we've given it away. Well, this time we haven't played great games, 2 games in a row. But all we remember is that we've won 2 in a row, or 3 in a row, rather, against Tampa Bay. And we're going back to Toronto with a 3-1 lead. And prove that you're different is all I ask. Prove that you're different. They've been different 2 games in a row. Now it's time to win the big one. Win the 4th one. Move on and focus on new things in weeks to come.
And we'll get to like that big fourth win in just a little bit. Obviously, that's the main storyline heading into Thursday night's action. But the star players, they have been a big part of what's been happening, but not in the first period or the first 2 periods. The first 40 minutes have been a struggle, especially in Tampa Bay. And now obviously they're coming back home. We'll see if it's any different. But Adamo, if you could break it down for me just a little bit, what's been the issue, their Achilles heel in those first 40 minutes? Is this something about settling into the game? I'm sure you've been playing Tampa Bay in the playoffs long enough that you should pick up on their habits and how they play. All I've been seeing really on the offensive side of the puck for them, dump and chase, not trying to get too much possession, which if you look at all their goals, that's been the bread and butter for them. That's what's been generating most of their tallies. What's the deal with their first 40 minutes, which is, as Leaf fans, the most frustrating things to watch, especially when you know the potential that these guys have?
I'd say they're not very fast. They're not a fast team, and they're trying to play a fast game, and you can't do that against Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay is like I don't think Tampa Bay's a fast team either. I think Toronto's just a slow team. Let's call it what it is. We don't like it. It's so weird that, you know, they went from this like super speedy team a couple of years ago to like one of the slower teams. They don't have a lot of speedsters, and even their speedsters aren't really fast. I think that's the biggest thing because they'll try to come in with sustained zone pressure and they can't. So they resort to dump and chase, and then they're not quick enough to beat the defenseman. Tampa Bay easy up, and they're out in the first two periods. And then I know we're not. I don't know if we're getting to the comeback yet, but it's wow. The voice is feeling it. I don't know if they
was at
even
the square
deserve.
last night. This guy was there.
Yeah, you could tell.
Those
I
are
don't
some
even know
stars.
if they had deserved that comeback. Really, like if you looked at some of their goals, they didn't really change anything. I can't say they. You know what? Their first one that like ultimate, I guess second goal of the game that started the comeback was ironically a beautiful play from
Absolutely.
TJ Brody, who's been a disaster this series.
Mhm.
He made an incredible pass to Nylander, made an incredible pass to Marner, made an incredible pass to Matthews. I'd make that pass too if I were him, if it's Austin Matthews and then Matthews snipes. That's the only time where like they brought the puck in with sustained zone pressure. The other two goals were just kind of three, I should say, were just shithousery. Shoot the puck, hit something, and it went in. So
Yeah. And I mean,
yeah.
a 4-1 lead from Tampa Bay. I mean, easily we were talking about the Leafs way of things and how they've come back, something we've never been able to talk about. Usually it's the other way, the 4-1 jokes. But now we get this one to ourselves. Evan, you've been on both sides, seeing that you've dished off the 4-1 lead goals to Leaf fans, and now you're going to be able to enjoy the 4-1 kind of joke with the Leaf fans as in a more beneficial way. But when you got to look at Tampa, they're the new possession of this 4-1 blown lead joke. What went wrong for them in a game that they looked so in control for the first 40 minutes? They had Killorn, of all players, someone who they struggled to get it going in the playoffs this year, finally breaking through, and even the last part of the regular season as well. Let's not kid ourselves. You have guys that are struggling coming through for Tampa. It looks like it's a storm of success. So they're going to tie this thing up. And then lo and behold, I don't know what it was. Maybe they suited up in a different blue and white before the game, which we all know too well. What was the deal with them? How did they let the wheels get off the track so quickly?
I don't know. I'm going to start off. I don't love Brandon Hagel's comments during the second intermission saying, I'm not surprised
I
it's
heard those.
4-1.
Yeah.
You can say that once the game is over because now it just makes you look even worse. I'm sure John Cooper is going to talk to him about that. That's just a horrible comment to make before the game had even ended. In terms of what's going wrong with them, I don't know if you guys have been watching, but like Derek Lalonde, who used to be one of the coaches in Tampa Bay, he's on the broadcast booth now with I think it's like TNT or TBS, one of the two.
Oh,
But
It's just with
or
Sportsnet. Yeah,
Sportsnet or
it's
Sportsnet? Oh,
Yeah.
okay,
yeah.
Sportsnet. I missed out. But he was saying that the one thing is that Vasilevsky can't track pucks from the top of the point, and you could see like that goal that Riley scored in years prior, like Vasilevsky would save that, and Derek Lalonde was saying how they would have a defensive structure that's catered around that, and you could see that that's what's going on. If you look at it, like Justin Hall's tip shot on a Chari, you got Morgan Riley's goal to tie it last night, and then you also had didn't Morgan Riley win it
Yeah, overtime.
in game
in
3. Yeah,
overtime in
Game three.
game three. And those are three instances where we would have seen Vasilevsky make that save. I also just think he's gassed. Like
He's
I just
cooked.
think I think this team is cooked. Like kudos to them. They made the cup 3 years in a row. I can't see them all of a sudden winning three straight games. Then again, we know who their opponent is, and I'm not. I don't know. I just think Toronto. I think the difference between this year being up 3-1 and the Montreal series being up 3-1 is that Carey Price was unbelievable just throughout that entire bubble playoff run. Like those games were closer games. Those were like your 3-2, 4-3, 2-1 type games. These games are drunk. Like 5-4, 6-5, 7-3. I don't know. It's going to be hard. And without Chernak, I mean, maybe that's the reason why Bunting is so valuable because if anything, Toronto won his suspension still because, I mean, full disrespect to Michael Bunting, he's nothing. He's not the same impact of player as Eric Chernak is to the Tampa Bay Lightning. So if you want to say Bunting doing that was a good thing, I wouldn't blame you for saying that because if Tampa had Chernak and Toronto had Bunting, I think Tampa might be tied 2-2 and not down 3-1.
And we'll get into the Bunting situation and how it's obviously expiring. He's going to be ready to come back on Thursday night for action. How he's going to slot in is the big question that's looming in Leafs Nation. We'll talk about that in just a bit. But before we move on from the comeback win, which is one of the best wins in Toronto Maple Leafs franchise history that we all got to experience at the Leafs Square, you have to look at the way these goals were generated. And now Tampa, they have been struggling. One thing I've noticed for sure, and I think it's really been on the surface, boxing out players in front of the goal has been an issue for them. And I think that's just a reason why Vasilevsky, I don't know if it's just because he's tired, which is a very well argument that you can construct as well, but he's not seeing the damn puck like you mentioned, Evan. Like that's an issue. If the goalie cannot see what he's supposed to save, more often than not, it's going to be in the back of the net or it's just going to be past him in some way, shape, or form. And I think that's the secret to success for Tampa. If they can get that going and make sure Cassie's getting a lot more clean looks, there's going to be a chance for a comeback. But that's the way the Leafs have been playing it. And I don't see why they start slowing down. You look at all the goals last night, minus what you mentioned, Adamo, that Austin Matthews beautiful goal to open up the floodgates for the comeback. Just wristers on net and seeing what sticks. Kerfoot, you think you would never have thought he would score the goal unless he was parked smack dab in the middle of the net. Made a really nice tip from it as well. So that's the game plan for the Maple Leafs and the star players. Now I'll get into them having kind of leading the way for it. Just throwing pucks on net. You're not seeing anything too fancy from Mitch Marner, William Nylander, who I thought has just really established his shot in this series. I remember the game two. I believe it was I believe the game one loss or game two. I think it was the game two win. He's just taking shots from wherever he pleases, and they're finding the back of the net. So it's just that mentality of shooting from no matter where, and making sure guys that you added, like Ryan O'Reilly, like a John Tavares, who you didn't add, but he has that power in him to be a force in front of the net, parking themselves there and getting the rewards from it. The star players. What have you guys made from them, Jared? Listen, Austin Matthews, I wasn't on the fringe of writing him off by any means, but I was a little skeptical in the second game heading into Tampa, how he was going to respond after a tough game one. And let's face it, a tough kind of season for his standards, how he was going to wake up from that. And he did it with flying colors, man. He came out and guns a-blazing, led that comeback yesterday, found some life in game three. And even Marner too. He's been all over it throughout this series. The Stars have led the way, something we haven't really been able to say with the Maple Leafs attached to that name value. How important has it been for this team to lead them into the position that they are in? And can we expect it to be done on Thursday night when it matters most? The only issue that they've had is putting up points in games to seal the deal and march their way into a second round. And that curse, that's the only issue. What have you made from them?
Well, for starters, I'll start by saying that the Stars have been crucial. I mean, they are the reason that the Leafs are currently looking and going back to Toronto with this 3-1 lead. As you mentioned, the comeback last night, it was totally spearheaded by the big guys, whatever you want to call it, the top four, the top five, whatever. Those are the big guys that really spearheaded this comeback. It was Austin Matthews playing with composure, knowing that if he gets open and if his line mate Mitch Marner could find a way to get the puck to him, he's able to shoot like nobody's business. And you even see the interviews and stuff that he's giving after the games. He's playing like a different Austin Matthews because he knows he's been in this situation before. He's actually had series where he's been all right, but he's celebrated those and he's been like, oh yeah, this is awesome. Whereas now he's kind of learned his lesson. Don't celebrate too quick. Kind of keep your composure. He had kind of a Kobe Bryant like quote at the end of last game. He knows the job isn't finished. He's playing like a different animal right now. He's composed. He knows what the mission is. And when he gets the puck on his stick, he's playing like a guy that he will not be beaten. Another star you absolutely have to mention is the new guy, Ryan O'Reilly. I mean, he's simply doing what he does best, which is just crashing the net, making sure pucks hit him, and he's just knocking things in. I mean, how he scored that goal to take us to overtime in game three was simply that the puck was shot right in front of the net from the side of the net. It hit off him, hit off his body, and he smacked it in front because he's a guy that does not stand down when the pressure comes to him in these high intensity situations late in games. And it's just the fact that the difference between this year and last year is the Stars weren't really showing up in these crucial moments in at least early returns right now. We don't know how it's going to be in game five. Hopefully not game six, hopefully not game seven, but we don't know how it's going to be then. But what we do know based on the last two games is the fact that the Stars have been able to step up in these crucial moments and win the crucial games for us. And that really is why the Stars have been so important. And you look at the leaderboard throughout the playoffs right now, it is the Leafs top guys that are now leading the entire playoffs in scoring. And it's the fact that these guys are stepping up in these key moments. And now we're walking away, coming back to Toronto with a 3-1 lead. And the hope is just that these guys stay true to what they're saying in these interviews. In the interviews, they're saying all the right things. They know the mission isn't done. They know what's on the line. They know what the pressure is. We're obviously going to need to wait and see how they show up in game five, hopefully being able to shut the door and finish this thing off. If they don't, we're going to criticize them and we're going to have a whole thing to say. But at least from what they've shown in these first 4 games of this series, is the big guys look different. They know what's on the line. They know that their reputations are going to be defined based on how they step up in these crucial moments. And we're going to see what they're really made of in these next few games. But early returns, they've looked really good, and the stars of the reason for this big series so far.
Yeah. And I mean, game 5, the biggest game of the series, obviously, that's when we're going to see these guys redefine their legacies. That's the biggest one of all. These guys have been under so much scrutiny of how much they fold under pressure, how much they don't get it done when it matters most. If you can get this done and you could punch your ticket, which we will talk about later in the show before we end off on how that will be done, if it will be done, and the situations that will arise from it. But their legacy is at stake. And I think that is something that can definitely change the way of how they've acted. And I've looked at one thing as well. They look selfless. They're not very selfish. They're not just doing it for themselves. They're doing it for the team. Marner, I read a quote today in an article where he's just always looking for Matthews on the ice, which has kind of been his bread and butter throughout his career. But this year it's been a lot more prominent in the postseason. And you're seeing the effects from it. If you can find Matthews, and if Matthews can find Marner, or whichever way it mixes in, if you can find a player dressed in white or blue and he's on your team with a Maple Leafs badge on the front of his crest, you're using that player. And I think that's one thing that we have to look into as well. Adelma, do you kind of agree with that statement where we're seeing a lot more of a group approach rather than just going in there and trying to battle it out for yourself and trying to get the points just for you and trying to put the team on your back as a result?
Yeah, no, I think that attributes to how versatile this team is. You can throw pretty much anyone anywhere, at least on the right wing and center. I know the left wing's a little still not great. Maybe they'll step up, but cares, we're winning. We're up 3-1. But yeah, no, I definitely can see what you're saying, where like they do look more of like a cohesive unit.
Yeah.
You even look on the power play, you're able to take a 40 goal scorer off of the second best power play in the league, and it still looks great. So yeah, I think it's definitely a group thing. I think that's something that attributes to how different this team is.
Yeah, and I mean that's it's been the big thing. Evan, you got to want to comment on kind of Ryan O'Reilly. I wanted to go with you with Ryan O'Reilly. This guy, I know we mentioned him a bit with Jared, but he has been the biggest deadline acquisition that the Leafs have had in quite some time. He's been making impacts, and the impacts that we kind of thought were going to be prominent. The guy who would go into the corners, stick lift, forecheck, feed the puck to his teammates, and of course, when he's in the middle of the net, cash in when he has to. Most clutch is the big word that comes with Ryan O'Reilly, and he's been showing just that during his postseason tenure as Toronto Maple Leaf. What have you made from his impact? Obviously, it's been so good. It's hard to say bad things about him, but what can we expect to see from him in this situation where now it's not just you're winning games for the sake of getting up in the series, you're winning one game to get through to another series. What are we going to see from him?
Yeah, I mean, whoever said that was a stupid trade probably doesn't know hockey, but I don't know who said that was. It doesn't matter who said it, but it's all good. Uh, I think, yeah, I saw he has like 7 points now in these 4 games. And I mean, that play that he made on Kucherov to stick lift, and I think that was what led to the Noel Chari deflection out in front. I mean, that's a big time goal. And the Leafs haven't had someone like Ryan O'Reilly, who is actually able to make an impact when he is in like the defensive end. Like they Leafs always grab guys who they think might work out, and then it just never does. Like Ryan O'Reilly is finally that two-way Selke player that the Leafs need. And I mean, his nickname is Factor, and he's been the X Factor for the Leafs. I don't know where the Leafs would be without the play of Ryan O'Reilly. Uh, yeah, I'm just he's doing everything right. Like I haven't really seen too many mistakes that Ryan O'Reilly has made, and Kyle Dubas is playing for his job. Not to say that he won't get a job anywhere else outside of Toronto, but he was certainly playing. He was certainly playing with his job for the Maple Leafs, and he's put this team in the best possible position to succeed. And getting Ryan O'Reilly, and I was skeptical because it was giving up a first round pick for him. But if it ends up working out the way it has been, then who cares who the first round pick is?
And that first round pick's looking like it might result. I'm going to knock on wood right now.
It's
That
going to
first
be
round
in the
pick,
20s. It's going to be in the 20s.
I'm going to say that first round pick might translate into us getting out of a different first round, which is the biggest first round concept that we've been looking at for quite some time. So again, Ryan O'Reilly, terrific addition from Kyle Dubas. We kind of knew the impact he was going to make. We didn't think it'd be this significant, and so far this series it is. But from O'Reilly, we're going to go to the guy with half that name, Riley, and just his impact that he's had. Man, I haven't seen a player that I've grown to love more in a postseason than O'Reilly. Usually, as Leaf fans, we come to hate players when the postseason comes around. Morgan Riley, he has been nothing but. When you come out with, I don't even know where he got it from. Me and Dom were joking about this yesterday at the square before the game even started. Where is this black eye coming from? I did not see him get hit in the eye at all. Was there a celly too hard?
It might be his nose, because I know when you break your nose, you get black eyes.
Like raccoon eyes, yeah. So it's I don't know where
maybe
he gets
from
it
the
from.
fight. I don't know.
But hey, it's a good look. It's and I think it brings him like plus 10 goal scoring, plus 10 assists. Like it's like a Diamond Dynasty character for crying out loud, man. But no, he's getting it done on the defensive side where it matters, I think, most. And then we didn't expect it, but the offensive side, he's chipping in just as well. He followed up a 4-assist game in Toronto in game 2 with a goal to win it in game 3 and a massive one to tie her up in game 4. He's just been all over the ice for the Maple Leafs. Out of nowhere, I didn't think he'd be this beneficial. I thought he'd play a massive role. I think he had to play a massive role if this team had any chance of success. But he is playing the role, the dictating role that we didn't think would come through. Jared, can you just put into words what Morgan Riley has meant, his physicality that he's brought, and the black guy that kind of complements it all?
It comes down to the fact that he's the longest running Leaf. There's no one on this current Leafs team that has experienced more heartbreak, more of the year after year issues than Morgan Riley, rather. And he's just stepping up and kind of deciding. And this is something that isn't just new to this year. He's always kind of been a guy that knows how to step up in the postseason. Never to this level, but he's always a guy that I've actually liked in the postseason, even though he's had his defensive struggles. Because at the very least, offensively, he's a guy that whenever push comes to shove, he will just grab the puck and rip it on the net. And that's a problem which it's starting to lead into goals, and it's starting to lead into beneficial things for the Leafs. But a lot of times we'll have the puck and we'll hesitate to shoot. That isn't an issue with Morgan Riley. When he grabs that puck, he rips it on net. And twice in 2 games, it has led to crucial goals going in the net. But even then, he's also just been able to contribute, getting assists, sending the puck to his teammates, because this is a guy that's playing determined to finally break through with this team. I mean, he's the guy that's been there ever since, I want to say 2012, when he was drafted 5th overall. He's been there every year. He's experienced the 4-1 comeback on the other end of the ice in 2013, a decade ago. And now he's playing like a guy who's determined to finally do that same damage to another team now on the Maple Leafs. And I love the play of him. I love the fact that he's able to contribute offensively. But even then, whereas in the regular season, he made a lot of defensive mistakes and we criticized him a lot defensively, even though I wouldn't say he's been unbelievable defensively, he's at least doing his job as a defenseman. He's not hurting the team, and he's doing what he does best. He's making a decent defensive play. He's being all right defensively, and then he's going up on the other end, firing pucks on net. And as of now, he's been able to get some lucky shots in and is just firing pucks on Vasilevsky and finding ways to crack him. So I think it's just the overall play of this guy that has been crucial for this team, and he's a guy that just knows how to step up when the time truly counts in the playoffs.
And I mean, it's weird to say this, but 29 years old, I find that he's looking even more mature in this postseason compared to many prior. Like he's simply the biggest thing in the playoffs as a defenseman is either to be not noticeable or noticeable to a point where you're chipping in and you're helping out and you're making all these big plays. If you find yourself in between, which there's been a couple of Leafs defensemen that have, that's when it gets a little dicey. He has not been that case. He's simplified his game, whether it's taking shots from the point, seeing what sticks, or just putting passes where passes should be going. That's what's been kind of what separates him from the rest of the Maple Leafs pack defensively. And that's the reason why he's been making so much contributions on the offensive side of the puck, at least in my opinion, even defensively. It's just quick plays, and he looks like a big leader back there, which we always knew he had since he's been the longest tenured Leaf on this team. But I think it's a little bit more apparent now, especially when you're seeing him getting the outcome from it. Evan, I'm going to go to you. What else stood out from Morgan Riley's game to you? And how will it be dictated in the biggest game of them all, this game 5? How will he be able to harness all those demons where he's been in those situations, like you mentioned, Jared, where it's just been so much heartbreak in those elimination games? Are we going to see him finally thread the needle and get something done like he has been throughout this series in game 5? And has what he's been doing so far been something that we can kind of say, yeah, it should happen. This is something that should be done?
Yeah, I mean, for God's sakes, he's finally playing defense. I mean, who knew that a defenseman could actually play defense? It's kind of crazy to say that out loud. A +6 rating through these first 4 games is nothing uh, I mean, that's just great. To be a +6, it's a great thing. I just, I don't know, because I'm thinking like, look, I think Toronto, I mean, hopefully they end this in 5 because I think, actually, I mean, they could end it in 6. They've won 2 in Tampa, but when you look at the next series and you look at a potential date with Boston, I don't know if it can really be sustainable through that series. Boston is just, I mean, they literally picked up everyone who doesn't give a fuck about an opponent. Anyone who doesn't care about your opponent's colors, they literally picked him up at the trade deadline. Tyler Bertuzzi was a big one. Dmitry Orlov, Garnet Hathaway. I don't know if it could be sustainable through that. Those are just some big dogs that the Bruins have, and it looks like they're kind of like taking it lightly with Krejci and Bergeron just because they know they could beat Florida without them. But when I'm looking right now at the series that they're currently in with Tampa, I think he's been the huge reason as to why Tampa has had to rely on their power play so much in order to score goals. I mean, if you notice, like that game 1 win, 4 of the 7 goals are on the power play. And then now they're kind of struggling 5-on-5 here. And they kind of picked it up last night with a few power play goals, but really struggling 5-on-5. And I think a lot of that has to do with Justin Hall, surprisingly, as well, who's been blocking shots. And I mean, his body is probably like a leopard right now. But as well as Morgan Riley, who a few times getting back and really breaking up a 2-on-1 or breaking up a high danger chance, been great so far.
Yeah, and I want to segue from the longest tenured Leaf to the newest one of them all. This is Matthew Knies. Man,
Hey.
there's guys that you enjoy, there's guys that wow you, and you just sit there and marvel at their skill set. Matthew Knies not only is that guy, but is going to blossom into one of the better ones in the National Hockey League as he gets more and more mature. I think yesterday was his 6th game, if I'm not mistaken. He's under 10 for sure. I do know that.
6-0.
Yeah, and look at that. And hey, he went from getting eliminated in Tampa Bay with the Golden Gophers to now winners of 2 straight and heading to Toronto with a lot of confidence and in the lineup, thankfully, which has been something that we were craving for game 1. Did not get it, but now it's here to stay. Adamo, I don't know where the jersey is now. I guess we're in the basement, so it's not making the appearance. But hey, you're going to be the one I want to turn to talk about this guy, Matthew Knies. You got the jersey before he even got to wear it himself. Where do we start with him? Like, the skills there, it's very evident. It's overtopping the brim in terms of talent. He always looks like he's coming out with a good play. There's something every single shift. He's growing and maturing and just becoming more and more into his own. And he's positively benefiting the Leafs too. Like, where do you start with this guy and where does it end? And how will it end with this guy in this series? What's he going to be able to do? We haven't seen the goal yet. We feel it's going to happen. Is it going to be happening in game 5? And is everything that he's been showing kind of went towards that?
God, I can't wait for this player next year. Oh my God. It gives you something to look forward to too. I think he's better than, this might be a take, but you have your best 5. We know who the best 5 are. I don't need to name them.
Yeah.
I'd argue Knies is the 6th best player, like forward on this team.
Most skills for sure. Like he will no question be the best.
Yeah.
I don't know if right now just because other guys have more experience, but I'll give you the most skills.
What does experience have? Like, being old? Is it a skill?
It's
Nope.
really shown us nothing. It's really shown us.
Like, honestly, I was calling for Knies to play game 1. I was right. This is like, he absolutely should have been in the game 1 lineup. This is one of your best players, and it was giving me vibes of like, remember when Montreal sat Cole Caulfield first game? Why? Yeah. Just because like this. I hate this notion in the NHL now. You need the old grizzled. No, you don't. Play your best 12, man. If you're best 12, like, do you not? Okay, if you have Connor Bedard on your team, this year's Connor Bedard. Like, are you playing him? Even though he's like barely has his G1. Yeah, you're playing him. And back to Matthew Knies, got a little off topic there. He's such a good player. We've never seen a guy quite like him on this team. We don't see guys that like take the putt and go hard to the net. every single time without fail. Matthew Knight is getting a chance from that blue paint, from that inner slot, and he's gonna tuck one of these times. Vasi's kind of at his number a little bit. Maybe it comes game 5, but I really hope it comes. He's such a good player, and he's brings such a different element. Like I said, no other Leaf does it quite like he does, and it's kind of crazy he's doing this to NHL players after playing with college guys.
And it feels fresh. Like that's when I watch us Matthew Nice, it just feels so like new and so like there's so much potential, so lovely. It's like spring when the sun comes out and everything getting warmer. It's a great feeling to have. And he brings something so different. He's so young yet so experienced. It's just you don't know how to put these two together. I think that's just the new way these players are coming up, where on the surface they might have some growing pains, they might work out of it, but he's playing in the playoffs for God's sake, and he's doing a really good job of it. There's not a lot of players at that age that can get that done. And Matthew Knies is one of the select few, and he's doing it for the Toronto Maple Leafs on any given night so far this series, except game 1, obviously. But like Jared, what are we going to expect to see from him in game 5? Like this is where the pressure now is at its biggest. This is where the fans are going to be the most demanding. He hasn't been in a situation where he's got fans like hockey fans like Leafs, which are just the top of the world in terms of hockey supporters. Breathing down his neck, asking him for something. Like, how is he going to respond? And is it going to be something that he just like pressure that kind of slips off a duck's back, if you will, or is it going to get to him? Do you see even him having the mentality of stuff like this getting to him, especially on home ice? Like, what do you make of him when we get to that pressure cooker situation?
I genuinely don't see it getting to him. I mean, obviously, all I could go off of is the first 3 games he's played in this year's playoffs. And all I've seen is a guy that at 20 years old is playing fearless. I mean, he is not afraid to stand, plant his body in front of the net. He doesn't care who's pushing at him, trying to get him away from that goalie. If he wants to be standing in front of the net, screening Vasilevsky, he has gotten into those areas, has crashed the net, has used his body. He hasn't been afraid to shy away from a hit. He's just a guy that even though he hasn't necessarily contributed yet offensively other than like an assist, he hasn't scored yet, but he's been fearless enough to crash into people, try to steal the puck. He's maybe gotten a little bit creative at times. That's one thing I'm not going to tell one of the most skilled players on this team to tune it down creatively, but I'd definitely say like in the defensive zone, don't be attempting through the legs passes and stuff. That's maybe something I'd advise him to turn off a little bit. But otherwise, he's a guy that just is playing like he's 20 years old, but he's playing with 26, 27-year-old confidence. I mean, this guy he knows he's skilled with the puck and he isn't afraid to shy away from that. He's moving it up. He's attempted a few dekes. He's attempted whatever, but on the defensive end of the ice, as I mentioned too, he isn't afraid to do the good things defensively, playing like a poised guy, even at only 20 years old. So I love what I'm seeing from the guy. And sure, we don't know how it's going to go in game 5 when it's an elimination game. We've seen previously the Leafs' most skilled players have kind of quieted their ability when it's that do or die game. So we don't know how Knies is going to be impacted by that. But if I were to take an educated guess based on what I've seen from this kid in only 3 playoff games, this is a guy that almost reminds me of Nylander in the sense that in these high pressure games, that's when he does his best work. I mean, he doesn't seem to be affected mentally by these high pressure games. In fact, he thrives off of it and just plays like a fearless hockey player. And like Adamo said to his point, I mean, I am so excited for it. This is what we're getting from Matthew Knies at 20 years old. Boy, I'm excited for the next few years of Leafs hockey with Matthew Knies on this team and hopefully even beyond his entry-level deal. I want to see this guy play out his career in a Maple Leafs jersey because he is something special.
And I think another argument you can make to how he's going to react in game 5 with the pressure all over him is that he's the only Maple Leaf on that team that has been with the organization for a couple of years and does not have the trauma and scars of post-playoff exits. Like, I think that's a big factor that a lot of people aren't really looking at, where this guy's coming in like, oh, what I don't even know what happened last year. Like, this is a completely new Toronto Maple Leafs history, playoffs, defeats. What is that? I don't know what that is. I just come in and play my game. I think that's something that we can also look into and say, it's not going to get to him. He has nothing to base this off of. He doesn't really, I don't think he has to like play up to something right now. He's just playing. And that's the beauty about having him in the lineup, is that he could just do what he wants to do.
He lost 10 seconds into the national championship game in overtime. I mean, that happened only a week ago. He's got some, he has some,
but I will say Golden Gopher scars are a lot different than
NHL's
most historic
franchise
scars, you know? So I think that definitely is going to be.
No, it was like a joking.
No, for sure. I think that's something that will definitely play a fact. You want to add something, Jared?
And it reminds me, I mean, it's the exact example that Adamo was like getting to, but I want to really say it reminds me so much of that change that happened in the first few games with Montreal before Cole Caulfield entered the lineup compared to how they played after. I mean, you have this kid who's almost playing like a kid in a candy store. I mean, to him, I just got an opportunity to play in the NHL where all season I've been playing college hockey. It's a dream come true for these kids. So they're almost playing in that sense where no matter what happens, it's like you're on a team that has something to prove, but you're the one person that's just kind of playing with house money. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but for me, he is doing way more than I expected and way more than what was advertised. As a 20-year-old kid, I mean, he's already blown me away. No one had these high expectations for him. The fact that he's even been able to solidify a spot into this lineup to the point that when Bunting's coming back, Keefe has already said he can't take Knies out of the lineup. Like, he's playing with house money. He's doing his thing. It's a kid in a candy store. And we don't know what kind of playoff run this could take us on. I mean, let's just get through one round first before I make any big declarations or statements like that. But I'm just saying it reminds me a lot of how that changed. The flick switched right away as soon as Cole Caulfield entered that Montreal lineup. He was playing speedy, having fun. He was laughing and smiling, playing in the conference finals against Vegas, like being a part of a goal that took them to the Stanley Cup finals. I mean, this is a kid that's just playing happy, having fun. Knies reminds me a lot of that. And at least if I'm going to say, if I'm the Tampa Bay right now, I'm scared at the fact that you have a kid on the Leafs that is kind of playing like he has nothing to lose a little bit. And I know, to Evan's point, he's coming off the biggest heartbreak of his hockey career to that point, but it's a little bit, it eases the pain a little bit. It's kind of that ice cream to the wound if a week later you're playing in an NHL lineup in a playoff game. I mean, he's playing like he has nothing to lose, and it's awesome to see.
And I mean, listen, the Leafs are 3-0 since Matthew Knies has been added into this playoff lineup.
6-0 in total.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But I want to, like, how does this affect? Is there effect for Matthew Knies being on that team and being in that locker room present? Is there an effect on the entire locker room with the Toronto Maple Leafs? Like, Adama, do you think that's something that we can? Is that feasible? Is that something you could build an argument around? Like, do you really think that these guys have come in there and said, this guy is just doing whatever he wants. He does not care. He's having fun, like Jared, you mentioned. Are they kind of taking up, like eating up that energy and saying, listen, it's not that bad, and putting those postseason demons from the past aside and just focusing on what he's been doing this entire time, just taking what comes his way and playing for it all?
I wonder if it's more, instead of like that type of play, if it's more of just him being a kid, like it's something to rally around that you have this rookie. It's like kind of like your little brother. You want to see him succeed, he's a kid. He's a year older than us. It's so weird to think about, I think that's the thing that they're rallying around most. It's like if he scores a goal, oh my God, we'll just
everything
forget the square, forget the arena.
Yeah.
The bench will go nuts if he scores. Mm-hmm. I can't wait to see it happen because it's happening. He's like scoring a goal.
Yeah, it's like the light at the end of the tunnel. Like you can see it as Leaf fans, it's there series wise, but like Matthew Knies is a light in itself. Like it's he's just glowing with not only talent but just potential, and that the future. I think that's what he brings. And the Leafs have never had that in their playoff tenure, where you bring in a young guy. Obviously, development has not been their strong suit when it comes to these playoff guys to put guys in. But now they have that, and I think you're seeing the benefits from it, where it's like, it's just different. It just makes things feel different. And I think that's the biggest impact he's had so far. Sure, you could argue his talent, his skill set. I think just the vibe he's brought and the vibe that they've kind of harnessed around to translate to victory, that's been something that can get lost in the shuffle a bit. And also lost in the shuffle in the 4-1 comeback win yesterday. He made a goal line clearing stop to, make it possible. So he's getting it done whenever he can. And just Matthew Knies, a terrific talent, so glad to watch. And some Leaf fans are ready to trade him at the deadline for someone who maybe could have made a bigger impact. Let's just take that in, okay? I don't think anyone here, but there were definitely some.
Oh, hold on. I definitely would have.
Yeah?
No. Yeah. No, seriously. Who's the big fish?
I remember it was Hurdle. Was it not? Or not Hurdle?
No,
Meyer. Timo
Meyer.
I still think I would. If Meyer came with an extension, I think I would.
Okay.
It's Timo Meyer, guys. Are we serious?
We'll play this very quickly. If you got to see,
I agree with Adamo.
If you got to see what Matthew Knies had right now, like we were in this situation, we got to see up to this state what Matthew Knies had in the bag. Would you make a trade for him? Or trade him?
I mean, he has 1 point in 3 games. I get he's a rookie, but like, it's not like he's offensively, he's not doing
He's
much
gonna
for
be
you.
great. He's gonna be great.
No, what
but,
I'm
like,
saying right now, like I would take it. I don't care about expectations because that can just, or like what he could be. Like we already know what guys
okay,
can
wait.
do.
Well, what he
Caveat.
is
Caveat.
3-0 right now
Caveat.
in the
Wait.
playoffs.
Wait. Okay, hold on. Let's caveat here. Do they still get O'Reilly? Do you get Timo Meyer and O'Reilly?
I mean,
You probably
theoretically,
don't because you would have had to given up a first to get Meyer.
yeah, I don't know.
Then no,
I mean, they
because
traded
I
they traded a first to get Lafferty and McCabe. I mean, we've traded 2 firsts at this deadline, so just instead
I think
of
they
the
could,
McCabe
they
Lafferty
technically,
one,
yeah,
Yeah, but you
they
were gonna
could've.
need 2 for Meyer. You weren't gonna get Meyer for
Yeah.
1.
or you do first and a prospect.
No, because even with that Meyer trade, you still got like some of their top prospects too.
yeah.
I mean, it wasn't
yeah.
any of their biggest fish, but like the thing is that I will say is if it's Timo Meyer for 1 year, I'm not doing it. If you can
No.
confirm that he's extending, then you have a different conversation.
Yeah.
If
Yeah,
he's
yeah.
coming long term, then yes, you're
Mhm.
And I
trading
think
any
O'Reilly
part.
needs to be there too, because like knowing O'Reilly only cost the first, that he only cost like a first.
Well,
and
and you
second.
got Cookie.
Yeah.
You got that Cookie.
Yeah, we got
He's
Chari.
been great.
Very
I
solid.
really
Trade.
like the Chargers.
What a player! Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
do
yeah.
I did want to Mario just answer like
Yeah.
the whole thing about like I know we were going to talk about Bunting, like what his situation is
Yeah, we
coming
should
back
get right
into
into
the
that, yeah.
lineup. I don't know. I was saying to my dad, I thought game 1 was his last game as a Toronto Maple Leaf. Like I think Sheldon Keefe is so sick and tired of the BS that is Michael Bunting. Like we've seen videos of Bunting on the bench just completely ignore Sheldon Keefe as if Michael Bunting was a Hart Trophy winner for 3 straight years like Connor McDavid. I think he's done. His contract's up at the end of this year. I mean, boys, I don't know what value he really brings to the Toronto Maple Leafs other than the fact that he's playing the first line with Matthews and Marner. I'm not discrediting his skill. He was great in Arizona too, but like I got to think he's a product of great talent around him. Just seeing that it's just a lot of being with those two of the best players in the world. And what can't he do that Matthew Nyes can't do for less? And you already know that he's staying for 2 years and then you extend him after. I don't know. You just see a different thing with this team. And I think they don't have to worry about whatever stupid thing Michael Bunting is going to do, whether it be intentionally or not, elbow Eric Chernak in the face on a play that he had no business doing that. I mean, that's just a stupid play. And then I know he doesn't get calls his way, but a lot of that has just to do with the fact that he wants to play dirty. But then when he gets pushed down, he's the one yelling at the ref saying, "Why aren't you calling this play?" Like it's just it can't be I'm gonna play dirty, but then I'm also not gonna I'm gonna complain when the call doesn't go my way.
Yeah.
So it just seems like a different vibe with this team when Michael Bunting's out of the lineup now, and Matthew Nyes is a better version of Bunting who's playing aggressive in the corner and who's actually done a great job of getting opponents the puck off their stick we saw with Nyes. So
Yeah.
I think I don't think Bunting plays game 5. I don't think you mess with this lineup at all. And honestly, I wouldn't play Michael Bunting until the Leafs lose again. Like
And
if they win game 5, you carry this lineup into game 1 of whoever it is you play. I just you don't mess up the mojo for a guy that's as useless to a team as Michael Bunting is.
And I think it's important before we get into this whole Michael Bunting discussion, I think it's important to kind of divide the playoffs that he's playing in right now and his future, because I think those not only are kind of correlated with each other in a way, because depending on what he does, if he plays, if and when and what he does going forward in these playoffs, I think that might impact what happens in the future. Because let's call it what it is. He's put up points for the Toronto Maple Leafs. Like he's a valuable offensive player. The stats, the numbers are there. So it's hard to say he's not deserving of the money when, first of all, he might be the most highly touted and sought out for UFA in this next class, but also he's got the points to his name. So we have to do while we're discussing it, we have to just make sure Michael Bunting regular season, Michael Bunting playoffs, and all that, they're kind of in their own lanes. But regardless, what we do know is that he's coming back on Thursday for that game 5. And the big question surrounding him is whether or not he will be going in that lineup. Evan, you made your points very clear that he should not be even touching the Maple Leaf surface for not just game 5, but for the remainder of the series because of the lack of discipline that he brings and how that could really, as we saw, shoot the Toronto Maple Leafs in the foot. Now, you look at the other side of it is Matthew Knies. It was confirmed. We said it off the top. He is not coming out of the lineup for Michael Bunting. So you know he's going to be in there. Who are you taking out? You're maybe taking out Reese, Lafferty, maybe someone in the bottom six. And I don't think Michael Bunting's touching top 6 minutes if he comes back into the lineup. So someone in the bottom six is getting taken out. A guy like Bunting in there, is it better to have a guy like him in there than out? And what you're kind of looking at here is you're factoring in offensive upside that he can possibly bring, and you're also factoring in the kind of sandpaper value that he brings as well. Obviously, he can tilt a little bit and he can overflow and it can cost him, but that's the consequences that you're dealing with. Like, let's talk about the Bunting situation. First off, I'll go with you, Adamo, because Evan, you made the point relatively clear. Is Michael Bunting playing Game 5 and the games that may follow suit after that? Yes or no?
I think he's gonna play, and I think he should play. The guy put up like 63 points last year, and I think he's so replaceable. I don't think he should come back next year at more than Yarncroke. He's not better than Yarncroke. He shouldn't make more than Yarncroke. But that's not to say he can't be on a fourth line with either Camp is staying in. It's one of Aston Reese or Lafferty. I don't care which. They've all been. That fourth line hasn't been great. They've lost their minutes out there against Tampa's fourth line. He's ate them alive. Let's play a quick game. Guess how many points Corey Perry has?
The series?
Yeah.
4.
At least
3?
4.
5.
Hey.
He's more than a point a game. What the fuck? When did that happen?
That's ridiculous. Oh my
God.
He's a one of a kind, man.
The worm is over point per game.
I don't. Wow, when did that happen? He's second on their team in points, if I'm not mistaken.
Wow.
Yeah. Anywho, they've been losing their minutes at 5-on-5, and I think Bunting could go in, play 11 minutes a night. If he fucks up and he does his old Michael Bunting, then yeah, yank him out again and don't put him back. Here's your one chance, and you're gonna have him on a tight leash too. He's on the fourth line, maybe even third line if it gets a little ugly in the middle of the game. But he shouldn't sniff the top 6.
And if he takes a penalty, Keefe is Keefe's not taking any chance. The leash is very short on him now. If you're not going to be disciplined and you're not going to play to how I want you to play, which is obviously bring some sandpaper, bring some grit, but also at the same time too, like a Corey Perry, which I think is someone Bunting should model his game after, considering how much similarities they play with the offensive upside and the physical presence. If you're not going to model like him and match up like him, you're not playing. That's what we want. We want you in here to be another Corey Perry. If you're not going to live up to that, and you're going to be more of, I don't know, some other dirty player that's probably blanking, which Corey Perry you can even throw in there as well. But if you're going to play like something like that, you're not playing, you're not getting minutes, you're on the bench, and you're not playing the rest of the series. Jared, I'm going to go to you. Game 5, Michael Bunting in or out, and how big of what he does in that game, and what should we see from him in that game to warrant games possible? Hopefully they don't come, but games 6 and 7, him playing as well.
He absolutely should be in the lineup, in my opinion. I mean, even though the Leafs have won the last 3 games and it's been great, don't forget, though, that in the last 2 of them, we've completely gotten outplayed and didn't deserve those wins. We have not been playing great hockey over the last 2 games, and Bunting objectively helps our team. We are a better team with Michael Bunting in the lineup than we are without him. And I agree with Adamo's point. He should not touch anywhere near the top 6. I personally, when I was before the podcast, I was just thinking about what my predictions for the lineups are. I currently have him playing alongside Ryan O'Reilly, and I'm trying to see who I put him with. I had him on the third line. I had Bunting, O'Reilly, and Achari as my third line, and I think he's a good third liner or a good fourth liner. I think that's what honestly he should have been to start the series. In Game 1, that's what I would have argued, just because we knew he was going to be a distraction. We knew he's lost all faith with the officials, so it was not a surprise that he was going to end up doing something to penalize this team. But I still think in the bottom 6, we are a better team having him there than not having him there. And also to your point, I mean, comparing him with guys like Corey Perry, who obviously Corey Perry's been able to find his offensive upside, but also Bunting is a good distraction. Let Tampa Bay get distracted dealing with third or fourth liner Michael Bunting and allow the Leafs top 6 to do their thing. I mean, I think that could honestly become a key to our victory, is let Michael Bunting get in their heads, get in their faces, because even though he's become kind of a dirty player, at his core, he's a great rat pest-like kind of player. I think he could absolutely be impactful in the sense that he'll just get in the heads of whoever he's matched up against. If he's paired fourth line versus fourth line, boom, let Corey Perry, Tanner Jeannot, and Pat Maroon fuck around with Michael Bunting. Or on the other end, let's say like their top line ends up getting stuck out against our fourth line. Obviously, that won't happen with last change, but I'm just saying in a hypothetical situation, if there's some kind of situation where during a line change, Michael Bunting's put out there against Tampa Bay's top line, let him just become a distraction. Let Kucherov get caught off guard because he's one of the most skilled players in the league. But also, he's had a bit of a track record of losing his temper. Let him get distracted dealing with Michael Bunting, maybe trying to get some ramifications in redemption, whatever, for the injury to Eric Cernak. And then let Tampa's top guys lose their focus, and that could allow the Leafs to end up winning the game. I mean, I think we're a better team with him in the lineup. We've struggled to score in the bottom six. Michael Bunting inserting into the bottom six just objectively makes us a better team. I don't see a way he sits in this game. But the guy who I see coming out is Sam Lafferty, because the way I have the line set up is I have Kerfoot, even though obviously he's the hero and we all love him. I see him jumping down onto the fourth line, and he will be your speed guy on the fourth line because he's not a slow player. That way you could have Sam Lafferty sit, and you have Zach Aston Reese, who's good defensively, David Kampf, who's great defensively and is a great faceoff taker, and then you have Kerfoot there. And I think that makes it so you're filling Sam Lafferty's role. Aside from his speed, he doesn't really do anything, so might as well have him sit, and that way you have Bunting in the bottom six.
Yeah, and I mean, the one thing I think must ring true is, like you mentioned, Jared, be a distraction. Don't be a distraction for your own team. That's what Nazem Kadri was when he was playing with Toronto, someone who's been so compared to Michael Bunting and obviously shipped out as a result. Don't be a distraction to your team once more, because Naz, he bit the hand that fed him way too much, and that's he paid the price from it, whether it was a great trade or not. Obviously, we know how that played out, but it's we're not trading Michael Bunting. He has the ability to leave in the offseason. I think it was kind of written on the wall before the postseason even started that he was on his way out. There was really nothing to suggest that he should stay from what he posted in the regular season, what he'd be asking for with the numbers that he put up the season prior. So it's just a matter of, you got him now, use him and use him well. And he's got to do his part and play it well as well. So, I mean, is there anything else we want to add on the Michael Bunting situation, or do you want to move into our kind of final topic of the night here? The goaltending situation that's going to be so crucial in Game 5.
I think we've kind of covered everything there is to be said. I mean, I don't see a way he's scratched. Like, I think
it's hard.
Will put him in the lineup, and it'll just more so be a matter of who comes out. My pick is Lafferty, but I think it's to Adamo's point, it's one of Zach Aston Reese or Sam Lafferty that'll be sitting. There's no way Nyes is sitting, so that's a good thing. At least that's a relief. With Keith's track record with young players, I was scared that we were going to find out Nyes is sitting, but
yeah.
I just wouldn't switch anything up. Like, you're 3-0 with this lineup. It's a team that hasn't made it out of the first round in 800 years. Why would you try to get cute and figure out what it is you're going to do? Just keep rolling with what you've got. Like, this has to be the easiest decision of your life. Like,
no,
not when it's a player that's a 60
but Michael Bunting
we
has
fell ass
regressed.
backwards
He
into this
regressed
way.
though. Like, Bunting had 63 points last year and had 48 points this year. Like, it's not like
not
this.
Bad. Better than Sam Lafferty or Zach Aston.
No. But I'm just saying, like, I'm just saying, like, we're talking about Michael Bunting as if he's like an X factor in this series. Like, if you're Toronto, I don't understand why you just wouldn't keep the same lineup that has already won you.
Because if they keep playing like this, they're gonna lose the next three.
You can only play with fire so long. They have used
I don't know.
If the Leafs keep playing like this, you can put this on record too. They're losing the series. Totally they cannot have another game like this.
You can't play 20 minutes of hockey, 25, 30 minutes of hockey and expect to win for
50. You can't play 50 minutes in your own zone. Kucherov literally treating you like pylons, and in the last 10 minutes you showing up. Trust me, I love it. If they can pull it off again, I'll be surprised because it's Tampa. It can't happen again. So it's not like it's a big change either. Like Zach Aston Reese coming out for Michael Bunting, I don't think that'll be the reason.
It goes very under the radar. Like that's the thing. And
if they
I don't think we're treating him like an X factor.
Yeah.
I think we're just treating him as another factor that can help secure the series win.
This fourth liner is better than the other one. Like it's not too big, I don't think.
Yeah. But I think that's kind of how Leafs Nation is kind of treating it right now. It's where it's not the be all end all if Michael Bunting is in or out of the lineup. It's something that's there. You have a tool. Why don't you use it to help you out and try to clinch a series victory. He's got the upside offensively, and he can bring physically. He's crossed the line. Okay, that's the reality of what it is. Players, in order to find the boundaries of what they can do and not do, you got to cross the line at some point. He did that. I think he's going to be in check personally. But then obviously we mentioned Keefe. He is on a short rope. He's on his last life. If Bunting knows he's got nothing in the future with the Toronto Maple Leafs if he messes up and gets at least one penalty, I'd say. One bonehead penalty. We'll leave it at that.
You saw what we did to Kadri. We'll do it to him.
The treatment is no different. There's no
attachment.
He'll win a cup 4 years down the line and be like, yeah, all these Leafs fans shout on me. No, you also got suspended for 3 games in a first round series.
Yeah.
Let's hope that's not the only time a Stanley Cup gets brought to Scarborough. Okay, so let's transition into the goaltending matchup. That's the last one we got tonight on tonight's show, and I think it's the biggest card left to be played in Game 5. Listen, Vasilevsky, we'll start with him. He has not been what we kind of expected from Vasilevsky. We've seen, though, that he's been able to overhaul, and exactly win an entire series on his own when it matters most. Case in point, last season's series with the Toronto Maple Leafs. Me and Jared were kind of joking around about it when we were talking yesterday. We're just waiting when Vasilevsky says, I've had enough and I'm going to turn up and this is going to be it. I thought actually it was coming in last night's game where it was like they couldn't really get anything past him. And then lo and behold, the comebacks gates fly open. Players are put in front of the net. They tip him in and there you go. His Achilles heel is narrowed in on, zoned in on. And of course, the Leafs get the win as a result, as we kind of discussed thoroughly throughout this show. So you're still waiting for a Vasilevsky massive thing. We've kind of all been on the same bridge of thought here that it's not happening. It's not coming. The big monster that's been in the way of the Maple Leafs postseason runs for all this time, that one goalie that goalies the Toronto Maple Leafs all the time, he might be on the run. And I don't know, like, are we still thinking that Vasilevsky's got one in him that can shift the tide of this series? Or is it just a matter of kind of doing what works for the Toronto Maple Leafs, and it's not gonna bother him? He's just gonna be playing the way he's playing right now, and they're gonna keep going through. Like, Adam, I know you made your case pretty clear. He is cooked. He is not there anymore. Jared,
cooked.
You're the one I've been talking with the most about Vasi because we still have our doubts. But has yesterday's game and the games even prior to that 3 in a row? Like, if you can beat him once, shame on you. If you can beat him twice, shame on me. Right? Like, is it the end of the line? Is Vasilevsky, this is who he is right now, and this is what's going to be dealt with in Game 5?
It's so hard to say it's the end of the line because there's still, if it goes to a Game 7 or in any hypothetical situation, a do or die game, I still don't think there's a goalie in the NHL I'm choosing above Andrei Vasilevsky. Like, I still think at his best in a game, you win and you move on. I still think Vasilevsky is a game stealer. He's a series stealer. He's a massive goaltender. And at his best, he can make saves that at least I haven't really seen anyone else in the NHL make. I mean, he is a guy who has a proven track record of stepping up in these crucial situations. And that's why I'm scared to say, oh, he's so cooked, because we're going to see what Tampa's truly made of when their asses are on the line in the next, hopefully just one game. But in the next game, when it's elimination time, we're going to see what Tampa has. And Vasilevsky is a guy that I would say would be an X factor if Tampa is to get back in this series. It's going to be because Vasilevsky steps up. So he's still a fantastic goaltender, but also at some point going to 3 straight Stanley Cup finals and being the only goalie to play, that has to catch up with you at some point. And he's proven that even though he's a fantastic goaltender that's capable of making fantastic saves, he's a human being. He's human. The Leafs have found weaknesses in him. They've found ways to beat him. And just the fact that he's simply gotten tired. I mean, you don't go to 3 straight Stanley Cup finals being the only goalie to touch a sheet of ice in those entire series and not get tired out of it. I mean, it kind of starts to take a toll on your body at a point. And I think that's more what we're dealing with. I still think he's a goalie that I can see in years to come regaining his title as the best goalie in the league. He's a terrifying goalie, but it's very possible, and I'm not guaranteeing that this is the case, because I wouldn't be shocked if he puts up his best performance of the series in the next game. But maybe at a point, the amount of play that he's played in the last few years, it catches up with you. And even before, I know obviously they got swept the year before, but the year before that, they went to the conference finals. Years before that, they went on deep runs. I mean, he has been a goalie that has played a lot of hockey, more hockey than any other goalie since the year 2018. And that catches up with you at a point. So he's not cooked. He's a great goalie, but I don't know. Maybe at some point
He's
he's
cooked.
tired.
He's cooked.
I mean,
He's
one thing I
cooked.
will say, the X factor that is his and few goalies have is the ability to turn on in big situations and just steal a series. Very few goalies are able to just come in when it matters most, down 3-1 in a situation kind of like this, and just run the show and run the other team out of the building and frustrate the team, right? That's the big part of all. That's what plays a factor into their success. I don't think that goes away necessarily. I think it dissolves, though. That's one thing. It's slowly starting to, like you mentioned, you can only play so much hockey. A human being is only so, like, it can only handle so much wear and tear. He's been the most active goaltender in the NHL over the last 5-6 years, and it's going to catch up to. And I think we're seeing a little bit of it now. There's cracks in the armor, and the Maple Leafs are exposing it. And if they continue to expose it, I think that's going to be something that's going to separate them from being losers and winners in Game 5. And Vasilevsky, it's not there anymore. It's just slowly starting to go away, and it's just a natural thing. You can only go on runs for so long. There's a reason why the run starts, has a finish line, an expiration date. We're slowly getting to that expiration date. It might be sooner rather than later for the Tampa Bay Lightning faithful and Andrei Vasilevsky. Evan, do you have any comments on Vasilevsky's presence in Game 5? Is it going to be something that we are going to see out of nowhere and it's going to be extremely strong, like we saw in last year's Game 7 with the Toronto Maple Leafs and Tampa Bay Lightning? Or is it going to be a little bit of what we've seen so far in this series, games 2, 3, and 4, where he's just been fighting it a lot and the Maple Leafs exposing him in every which way?
It's hard to bet against Andrei Vasilevsky, but I mean, he looks done. Like I don't know. It's honestly been a tale of like two horrible goaltending performances, and it's kind of just like who's had the worst goaltending, and it's been Tampa Bay. I mean, when you look at Vasilevsky's numbers and you look at Samsonov's numbers, neither of them are dominating this series whatsoever. So it's kind of just like my goalie's worst. I can't see Vasilevsky all of a sudden hopping on a plane to Toronto and turning it on. He's done it before, but honestly, after we've seen those stats with his record after a loss.
It's shown not to be true this year at all.
Yeah, I don't know. I think his legs are just out of it. I don't know. I mean, honestly, Vasilevsky hasn't really been that great this entire regular season. So to see him be like this in the postseason, I wasn't really shocked, but at the same time, I kind of was, just because sometimes you flip that switch in the postseason. But I think, I don't know. There's no more oil left in the tank. Like I think it's at empty. And I mean, he's a Hall of Famer, but it's just it's the end of the road.
Yeah, we're still all at the same consensus here that it's trickling down. It might even be at the end. I guess we'll have to see on Game 5 if he comes up with a response or not. One guy who's left his oil at the end of the tank and has been transferring it into success, it's Ilya Samsonov. This guy has been just kind of growing with the game. I think it's the one thing we can confidently say in these last 3 games, where it's just been a pretty ugly stretch in the first 20 to 40 minutes. Mostly the first period, mind you. And then he settles in, and he's not looking like Garrett Sparks between the pipes anymore. He's staying in his net, which is very nice to watch as a Leaf fan. And he's stopping pucks, and that's the biggest thing of all. He's stopping them in big situations. His mask's falling off in some of them too, so he's putting everything that he's got in the way of those pucks to try and win a series for the Toronto Maple Leafs. I know he's going to be an X factor. I don't think we got to dispute that. He's going to be the guy who, if the Leafs are going to have any chance of winning the series on Thursday night, he's going to be the guy who's going to be his sharpest. I don't care if you're going to make the star players and throw them in that argument, but it starts with goaltending. It starts with Samsonov. He's going to be the one who's going to stop Tampa Bay's best game that's coming forward. So he'll be an important factor. But let's talk about what he's had to do and what he has done in the game's part before we end off the show. He's just come to life when he's kind of had to. When he had to stop the bleeding, he was in there and he got it done. Jared, what do you make of Ilya Samsonov's ability to just say, okay, we sucked in the first period, but hey, let's come out and put the next 40 to 60 minutes, the strongest ones of our lives, and get it done? Like, how important has that been for the Maple Leafs' success and just holding it all together and giving them a chance to not only when they're behind come back in these games, but go on and to win them and succeed for a prolonged period of time?
I think that's been his whole thing, and that's what's made Ilya Samsonov so strong, is the fact that I would argue the worst goaltending performance of this entire series, even though Vasilevsky's been the worst of the 2 goalies, in terms of one particular period, I don't think there's been a goalie that's played worse than Ilya Samsonov in the first period of Game 3. I mean, he was awful. He was so slow to move. He didn't see half of the pucks that were fired towards him. But I'd argue that after that first period came to an end, whereas some goalies would look at that first period and be like, this is just one of those nights, I'm going to be awful and just throw the game away. He put up, I would argue, the best second and third period of the entire series. So after the worst period that any goalie's played, he found a way to turn it on. And you could argue, even though it was some crucial goals at the end of the game, a crucial Ryan O'Reilly goal to tie it, and a crucial Morgan Riley goal to win it, you could say that Samsonov's play is a big reason as to why we ended up winning that game in particular. And it all comes down to the fact that, what do they say about goalies? The best ones are the ones that have the shortest memories, the ones that are able to rebound and bounce back. And I'd absolutely argue that with Samsonov, because he hasn't been perfect. He hasn't been the best goalie he could be. He hasn't been great at all. But in those crucial moments to save a game, to keep us in a game, he's been able to make that big save. And I think that's the difference between a goalie that can take a team far and a goalie that can't. And I think that's what it really comes down to, the fact that when he's been bad, he's been able to tell himself, snap out of it. And all of a sudden, what do you know? He's come back in the next period or whatever and played better.
Yep. And Adam, I'll throw this over to you before we kind of get into the concluding parts of the show. The biggest narrative in goal for the Toronto Maple Leafs, and the reason why they've gone out and got all these goaltenders over the years, is needing that one big save. What have you noticed from Ilya Samsonov this year and in this postseason, this goaltender that they have right now and that they're working with, compared to Leafs goaltenders in the past? We've seen them have success in up to this point into Game 5 and carry that success into the games to come after. But what kind of makes Ilya Samsonov stand out from the bunch that maybe strikes a bell and says, this is actually one of them that's worked out, perhaps, and has the potential to be an amazing fit if it were to go into a second, third, or even, God forbid, another round as well. So, like,
yeah,
what's been the difference maybe from Samsonov?
I'd say off the bat, he's making saves that, I guess this is a stupid answer, but he's making saves that other goalies wouldn't for the Leafs. You look at, there was one, not the last overtime, but the Game 3 one. Kucherov, was it overtime? I think it was overtime. Kucherov basically it was overtime. Walks in on the back end, pretty much a for sure goal. It's Nikita Kucherov, and Samsonov saves it. Jack Campbell is letting that in flat out. And even last night, there was another one where it was like a pass to the slot, which Tampa does way too much. We need to clean that up. Pass to the slot on his forehand. Was it Sergachev?
Yeah, it was Sergachev in overtime that just had a wide open lane and just ripped it. Samsonov stepped up.
Samsonov comes in and saves it. That's not a save Jack Campbell makes. Yeah. We saw Braden Point last year, or I think Cirelli too was on a breakaway. Nick Paul, they weren't getting those saves. Shot. Yeah, oh my God.
That penalty shot was just a joke.
That was terrible, yes. But
he didn't even make Samsonov work for that.
Campbell would find a way to let that
Campbell just leave the net, eh? He'd just get out of the net.
He'd find a way, and then he'd self-pity himself. And yeah, he really tricked us. He tricked us. That son of a bitch tricked us into
he was great in Game 4 against LA.
$25 million. Like, good for you. I'm not going to pocket watch, but man, he is not worth it. I don't care. You
should have seen the game that.
No. I saw. He made me money. I bet on them. Put my money where my mouth was. But
Samsonov's the difference maker. He's the guy that's kind of looked.
He's
a
the
lot
truth.
Different. He's the truth. All
he's
right.
Him.
I will.
A sub 900. He's got to clean that up if the Leafs want to move on, though. Like, I get the whole thing, but a sub 900 and a 3.
He's him.
All right.
I've learned this. Playoff hockey is weird. I've learned one thing that's true in every series. The goalie in the series head to head with the most wins is the better goalie than the one with the better save percentage and goals against average.
You know what?
Cooking.
I do think you're right.
Yeah.
I can't argue with that.
Listen, the only thing I will say on Samsonov, he's been terrific up to this point. He's made the big saves to this point. The big save, that's been the definition of that big save that we've been looking for as Leaf fans, comes in those elimination games. And that's what we'll be seeing on Thursday night. It's going to be, I don't know if it's going to be like a clenching, nervous energy when the puck's coming to him, but like, I think I'm feeling a little bit more calmer with Samsonov in there compared to Jack Campbell. We've seen some saves been made, and he's been the one making in this series. So again, that does it for us. Thank you guys for tuning in to this episode of the Leafs Flying Pod. It's pretty long, but we covered a lot today. There's a lot of ground to cover. And let's hope the next episode we do is maybe something we celebrate for the first time in our lives, really.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that does it for us. Thank you so much. I'm your host, Mary Russo, Evan Davis, Adam Rimoli, and Jared Rotenberg signing off. It's going to be fun, guys. This is going to be, we're back here another year in a row where it's just facing nerves in the face.
5.
Putting nerves to steel and seeing what happens after that, yelling at a lot of TVs. The voices.
Hopefully your
the
voices will be
The
good.
voices are gone. That written
Hopefully
off.
they'll be good by the show.
Yeah, I don't care whether we're in Leaf Square or not. The voices are cooked after. And Friday's going to be a really low talking day.
We'll see Adama using sign language for the podcast
Yeah,
instead.
might have to develop a new way of communication on this show. Maybe we're just using the chats. I don't know.
Just texting.
Live chats. But yeah, that does it for us. Thank you guys for tuning in. Catch us hopefully in great spirits when we do our episode next week.
See you in round 2.
Yeah. Okay. That's a confident one right there.
Sorry.
Let's maybe put it into a compilation if stuff goes south.
Wait, before we go, I gotta just share a bet I completely forgot I made.
Okay. Cook.
I took a page out of Sammy Rosovsky's book. Shout out to him. I took a page out of his book and bet on Tampa, but I thought it'd be funny that if this bet doesn't hit, I would have pissed away $19.67.
Lovely.
What did you take?
Lord.
Tampa to win the series at like 11.25 odds or something.
Oh my god. 1967.
I never hit these types of bets, so I
Yeah.
guarantee the Leafs win. There you
The
go.
the best way of approaching life is win when you win and win when you lose. Am I right? So yeah, that does for us. Thank you guys for tuning in. Take care. And let's I'm not gonna say go Leafs go. That's a bit of a bias there, but it could be done, and it may very
Leafs,
well be done. All right.
Leafs.
Go Bucks!
I'm a Leaf fan.
Yeah. Take
Go
care, everyone.
Bucks!
These signs mean nothing, right? Take care,
Yeah.
and we'll see you next time in great spirits.